So sending you also warm, positive vibrations. So today, relaxation, anxiety, and hair growth. Not only hair growth is one symptom, if you will, one sign of uh, the metabolic processes that are happening inside the body. So, in addition to us going through the different phases of life, we have many phases of life, even throughout the day, right? With stress, and anxiety in our body's physiological response to the stimuluses being put on it, the physical stressors, the stresses in terms of what we've eaten or didn't eat, and our digestion. Big part of that, what's affecting our metabolic processes are actually our thoughts and our emotions, right? Because if we're feeling scared and frightful, anxious, that is affecting our entire body chemistry. We're having physiological responses to what's going on this screen of the mind. So this morning I went out and I picked some cinnamon basil. It smells exquisite and it's good for the digestion, and it was lovely, even just for the few minutes that I was outside to pick those herbs, right? Just the quiet of the crickets and the roosters, just that early morning quiet and the stars. The sun is starting to come up now. It is it's very calming. So wherever you are, you may need to open the window and look up out at the stars. If you're an early riser, shout out to the early riser circle. For those of you that are new to this channel, welcome. This is Body-Culinary. On this channel, I share a journey of radical self-acceptance of my hair, skin, and features, and stay in the practice of, however imperfectly, the consistent practice of self-care, right? Because health is the number one beauty product. It's my number one beauty product is my health, and that it can be fluctuating, right? So I'm always checking in. That's even, I would say, a form of meditation. So I share radical self-acceptance. I encourage folks to start a movement practice, a personal movement practice, to find the sweet spot with peaceful consumption, right? As peaceful as you can eat and you can intake for your brain, your body, your arteries, your lungs, your organs, and your mood. And then extending that out to the world and the creatures that are around us. So there's your personal movement practice, there's peaceful consumption centered around whole, fresh living plants, which we eat in thanks for them giving their energy and their life force, their energy force, their living force for us, the plants. And I'm looking at this one, it has some water on the leaves, and that's a whole nother discussion, I had with a Mayan friend, a Mayan brethren, about plants pee in the morning. And then there's also cultivating your garden, the food, and your movement practice, and radical self-acceptance, right? Whatever package you're in, those are the things I share on this channel. Please send your message on Instagram. Please check it when you get a chance. Enjoy it live. Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful stuff. I am a person that I'm a human that really, I love joy. I love the experience of joy. And I look to leverage anything that I can to have certain experiences while I'm on this side of the planet. And I'm not someone that likes to claim dis-ease and to claim I'm this or that, whatever's trending, whatever labels, whatever medications they're recommending for folks. I just have not, just from a young age, it never resonated with me. Now, I do get that some folks, anything I say is not the truth. If it resonates with you, take it, run with it, try it on for size. If not, leave it right here. But I am not one to take on labels. I'm actually really maybe the opposite, resistant to taking on labels. And I will add a dose of common sense in there. At the same time, I have learned for myself, someone that likes discipline. I've also learned to be very compassionate with myself, to acknowledge, for example, anxiety. I have noticed in recent times, it's also, I'm sure, because I have, even after years, I more refined my listening, or I'm even increasingly more intentional, even if for short periods of the day, I'm listening. I cultivate listening and I cultivate like a taste for bitters. I cultivate a craving for quiet, and quiet. I mean, a listening with your own onboard divine innate intelligence. Is a communication system that is beyond any labels or any camps that we could put on it. There's a communication and a listening. So if my heart is fluttering, I'm a very sensitive person, very sensitive to violence, yelling. I'm sensitive to harsh colors, harsh sounds. I'm listening. Sometimes I wonder if other people are not as sensitive, or if we have been more groomed to keep it moving. And so we don't hear, we don't listen, because there's a pace of life right now on the planet. And so if I step into an environment, or if I engage in activities where there's a sharp contrast, I pay attention and I listen. My grandma Lou, who I mention quite often, and my godparents, my grandma Lou was in sharp contrast. Her mood and her energy and her interaction was so pleasant. I have never met such a pleasant human being, that she was a marker to me. She set the bar, because I was like, how come she's not angry and everybody else is angry? So she has kind of attuned my eye to sharp contrast. Like when I come across people and I'm like, how come they're not reacting and moving like the rest of the crowd? They draw my attention. And so at this point, I pay attention to, for example, when I went in the garden this morning to pick cinnamon basil, by the way, which I'm having with some nice warm water, right? This is all self-care. These are simple things that we have access to. Listening to the crickets, and it was still dark, and there was still, I'm an early riser. Shout out to my early risers. The stars were still out. And so I felt like oh my gosh, it just felt like so relaxing. I was thinking like, wow, I wish I could just share this with everybody out there, just the peace and the quiet. I am a lover of the wee hours. It's the power hour. It's a time of peace. I wish I could have just put the camera on the stars, and so you can hear the quiet. And there are certain places that I've actually traveled to where there wasn't really any internet. And I've stayed in such places for quite a long time. The silence was a deafening silence. It was so quiet that it's shocking. Like all I could hear was nature, and actually my ears became different. I could hear when the rain was coming. So we could take laundry off the line. I could actually hear when the rain was coming. Before, I couldn't understand other people. Like I would see people running when it was the rain, and I was like, after a while, I could hear when the rain was coming. I could hear at certain times of the year when the fruit was ripe, when the fruit was dropping off the trees onto the ground. I could hear all of these sounds. And so I realized, like, wow, I think that's part of what's missing. I think that's part, oh my gosh, that sound to me makes me feel emotional. I think that's part of what's missing that has us so jacked up. It's so noisy. I can't hear the sound of the fruit falling off the trees. In the city, it's so noisy and there's not a lot of trees. So many of us would miss out on the sound of the fruit falling off the trees. Excuse me. But I'm just thinking of that sound. So I know now wherever I go, nature is a requirement for me. I must have nature around me. I must have sunlight. I must have access. I've known this for years. I must have access to bright sunlight and the feeling of the warmth of the sun on my skin in the early day. It's a requirement for me. For me to live in a dark, dank basement is not for me. I must feel the sun. That is something that's a value. That's a core value. I must do work that allows me to have time, and I create that intentionally so that I can have time to go out and feel the warmth of the sun on my skin. I would feel very resentful if I don't have access to the sun. And so if we're moving at such a pace, or we're living in certain environments, and I am big on making the best use of whatever environment is available to you, we may not realize that one of the reasons why we're overstuffing and eating ourselves to the point of deformity, or taking in so much excess energy in the form of physical food, we may not even notice the things that are missing. And so that's one of the reasons why, as a fitness coach and a trainer, and someone that's also a chef and a mom, but especially as a trainer and a coach, I encourage everybody to grow something. Everybody, whatever environment that you're in. And that's something we can do. So watching the plants and the flowers open and close, tasting the flavors of these plants and these leaves and the different parts in the flowers without any salt or anything. You know, we may not realize we're not tasting. You're not tasting food. We're tasting substances that are masquerading as food. So it's a kind of artificial existence. And so if the artificial existence is the status quo, that's the rhythm that we're moving in. And so there may be an underlying feeling, or I've noticed this in a listening, like an anxiety, or there's a nagging something. We may sometimes call it sadness. But if you don't ever get into a different rhythm or into a different environment, or even if you're in a city, cultivate and create that different environment for yourself, you may not have anything to compare and contrast to. And it's not to demonize any of the paths or the life choices, but if you're feeling dissatisfied, or if you're haunted by the feeling, or there's a nagging feeling, there's something else I want to do, or something I want to experience, or I may just be noticing I don't feel a sense of calm and peace. That's a communication. That's um, that's a guidance system. And so when you come across other kinds of experiences where you feel um, that like picking the plants and the herbs, that's a guidance system towards getting in alignment to what is making us feel good. So all the loud music and the images and the food and the club. I used to like to party too. I was never a drinker or smoker, and I still love to dance. However, to hear birds on a regular basis, to hear the sound of the rain, to even hear the sound of the wind rustling the leaves is soothing to me. I'm like a plant. We are like plants, if that makes sense. So I'm just going to do a little deep breathing. So you're welcome if you have issues with your knees or your back to sit in a chair. You can sit upright, and to the bowl of your pelvis to tilt it this way will help to straighten out your lower back. Gently pull your belly button in toward the spine, and you want to just be aware that your shoulders are down so that you have space between your earring and your shoulder so you can have easy blood and oxygen flow. Your eyes can be closed or open. And we're going to breathe in and out through the nose, being mindful and just paying attention to notice, are your inhale and your exhale, are they synchronized? Are they nice and deep? Here we go. So you're welcome to take your, whatever your colorful pens are, and to write in your journal. It's also a good time to ask a question of your own divine onboarding intelligence. If there is something that you're working on personally, if there's something that you're working through, perhaps questioning a vice that you have, or a self-sabotaging behavior that is compromising your health, it's a good time to do a scan and to ask a question of your own divine communication system, right? Because it's not bossy, but it's quiet and it's always there. And I found that it requires like a quiet and a listening, right? So that you can take direction and guidance from it. And you're welcome to write a few words. This is my journal today. I have different journals. You can write a few sentences or a few words that come up for you inside your journal. So these are small practices that can really ground us and guide us throughout the day. You're welcome to replay this if you like. I really encourage folks to create positive support for yourself. Support works. To cultivate a circle of influence, whatever you need to do to create support around yourself, so that when we have a tendency to click into automatic pilot during the course of the day, right? Where we're just going through the motions and we can lose sight of the aspirations or the intentions that we set for ourselves, especially when it comes to trading off vices for new behaviors. So supporting yourself and encouraging yourself, just like you would a child, can be very helpful. So y'all create a great day on purpose. Know that your nurturing and your self-care is going to um, it's going to support your hair growth and the healing of your skin. These are processes, natural processes that take place anyway. So our body chemistry and being relaxed and taking in peaceful consumption can be a huge support to that. Y'all create a great day on purpose because you said so. Feel free to subscribe to the channel and to share this with someone that can benefit. All right, see you soon.